My friends, good evening.
The images have made the rounds. They've been widely shared in homes everywhere. We have a sad scene taking place at the United States Open, which is a tennis tournament. There's a kid who's about 11 years old. He's watching the match, and at one point, his favorite tennis player comes over. He takes the cap, signs it right there, and gives the cap to him. And actually, the moment the child is holding it in his hands, there's an adult, a man of a certain age, very tall, twice the size of the child. He comes over, snatches it out of his hands, and takes it with a smile, with the smile of someone who thinks everything is owed to him. He takes the cap and leaves with the trophy. So we know very well that these kinds of images are so revolting that they go around the world. People don't share these kinds of images by accident. It's because a normal person is affected very negatively by this kind of scene. We imagine that this child is there to watch the game, to learn the Coubertin spirit, and then an adult comes along and he breaks it. He breaks the elegant gesture of this tennis player. He breaks the atmosphere. He breaks the lesson that this child came to learn. So, of course, once the images circulated, the culprit was found, which is a way of saying he was identified. So, this is, and maybe this is the most important point of the story, is that we're talking about a chief executive officer, a company executive. So, of course, so the company in question was stormed. That means that if you go to the Google reviews, well, it's getting hit with a negative review every minute, isn't it? I mean, 1 star, right? We also have a large number of negative reviews pouring in on Trustpilot. If this company is listed on the stock market, well, we can imagine it's going to lose value. If it has customers, we can imagine it's going to lose a lot of them, right? And that it will have a hard time acquiring new ones in the future. Because people in the future, when they Google this company, the first thing they'll see is a review. 1 star everywhere, bad reviews everywhere. They won't even necessarily read them or connect them to this scandal. They'll just think, whoa, just avoid it, right? Especially since in some comparisons, the companies are displayed and we just see the stars. So we'll see that this one has 1 star. Most people won't even consider it now. Of course, it's not unfair to the company. Because, and maybe this is a very important reminder today, that if we want to thrive and not just thrive, because there's thriving but also lasting, we often talk about sustainable development. When we talk about sustainable development, very often we're actually talking about scamology. But in reality, there's another kind of sustainable development that evolves with ethics, evolves with normal people, people who make it so that not only does the company grow, but it also lasts. Because with psychopaths, well, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Yes, it's true that we move forward with brutality. We're capable of taking a cap off a child, but we could also take away his bread. We could starve a retiree or let a retiree die in the cold. If it means increasing his bonuses, or if it means increasing shareholder dividends, yes, we do it easily. But you have to know one thing. Today, the public is fed up. The public shares these images. The public sees this. And I'll just give a simple example, a tragic, sad one, but revealing if we study it from a social perspective. Last year, there was a chief executive officer who was killed at night in New York by a man he didn't know. And in fact, the majority of public opinion, and this was very worrying, was on the side of the shooter. Isn't that right? Remember that story. Let me tell you, there have been studies in recent years. It goes back 20 years, the very first ones. Numbers that are not always easy to get. We agree you need the cooperation of those involved and all that. But what do the numbers say? The numbers say that a fairly substantial, important, statistically significant portion of CEOs and the management team of companies, well, they are under the influence of what is called the dark triad. So you can imagine a triangle with, you see the person who is narcissistic, right? That's it. with the cult of personality that you find in most companies. It's like being in the Communist Party of some banana republic somewhere in the world. I've seen companies where the chief executive officer's personality cult was so strong that he would openly display it. Sometimes he says something in a meeting, he says something, his secretary writes it down, she orders a large format poster, she puts it up with that quote everywhere in the hallways of the company. But let me tell you the worst part. I saw it once, and I'm not even sure I saw it. We didn't talk about it.
Or the words of the chief executive officer in question.
We were written on big boards, huge billboards, which were plastered in the subway stations, in the airport of the city in question. You walk toward the terminal and you see boards with these expressions to tell you the narcissistic side, it's not just a state of mind. Second part of the triangle, that's Machiavellianism. Machiavellianism, the ability to manipulate others, the ability to actually use others, to create, to give them, to lie to them, all that, to falsify, to deceive them in order to achieve your goals at any cost. And the third part of the triad is the psychopaths. Psychopaths are capable of making others suffer. They are capable of crushing others. They have zero empathy. They are capable of anything. It's like, in some companies you have the boss who says, well, we're going to make some cuts. The company made a profit, but we can make even more profit next year. Fire 20% of the staff for me, just like that. You get rid of them. If that increases my bonus or something, no problem. It's a triad that is extremely dark. By the way, even a study from 2011, a peer-reviewed study, which suggests what? The thesis that it actually defends is that potentially the 2008 financial crisis was caused by people with this triad, by people who are clinically mentally disturbed. And since companies seem to favor them, why? Because they say to themselves, yes, you see, he loves taking risks. He's a go-getter. He's not afraid of anything. He doesn't bow down to anyone and all that. In reality, he's someone who is very brutal, who has no morals or rules, you see, who is manipulative, who is a liar, who is dishonest. And actually, people say, yes, did you see how amazing he is? So the problem is, well, okay, he's amazing. He lifts you up in some way, then after a while you change. After a while, that's why I say this. It's not unfair what the company is going through. You have to be careful. You just need to do screenings. You do screenings, you take your people to the psychologist, you bring back a certificate that says they're normal. Because you see, if you put this kind of people, if you want, the child whose cap he stole, by the way, the tennis player eventually met the child later, gave him another cap and all that. So the child is settled and not influenced by this guy, right? But imagine the employees working under his supervision every day. Let's imagine, right? Those people, especially since very often the toxicity in a company, where does it come from? It comes from the top, right? It comes from the top. It affects everyone. Those who leave in the morning anxious and those who can't sleep at night. Those people who end up getting divorced, who end up falling into depression because of the toxicity of people like that at work, right? Well, yes, it's no joke. These things, it's always very serious. It goes beyond just the title. So I was saying, what do clinical studies say? They say that of course, it's difficult to find the exact numbers. All right, here you go. I'll give you a baseline J, E. The baseline is that in the general population, it means you stop a bus or a subway or something like that. You have about 1% of people who have this triad, the dark triad. You have 1%, which means out of 100 people, you have roughly one. When you get to the company's management team, according to the most generous figures, it's 4%. Those are the most generous figures. Those are the most generous numbers. They say after this revenge, they've done everything. But well, it's 4 times more. It's statistically significant. It's not a coincidence, 4 times more. And the highest numbers talk about 21%. And we have plenty of numbers in other studies that show 18, 19, 20, 12. You see what I mean? That means significantly. And why? Because the business world favors and attracts these people. The more a person is able to walk over others and crush them, betray them, and all that, the more they are propelled upward. Before I continue, I'll tell you something. Yes, if the chief executive officer of your company is like that, and you've identified in him that sinister triad I'm talking about, you want to change companies. You need to be careful about the channel he uses. It's an organization that exists in France. I've known about it for a long time. I've sent a lot of people to them and they've been taken care of perfectly. They can sometimes help you with France Travail partnerships. It starts with my training account. So these are people who are certified and all that, and who make it possible. They intervene in basically two cases. You lost your job, you want to look for another job, they can support you, or you're in a job and you want to change. You don't know where to start, you're nervous, you don't feel ready to face the market. They can help you, support you as well, okay? In many cases, it's 100% covered by France Travail. Check the link in the video description and pinned comment. It can help. The other thing that's absolutely frightening is that these numbers have been compared. By the way, the methods used don't come from the working world. The methods used weren't originally designed for that. For CEOs, it's just that these methods were used on these people because matches were found. In fact, these are methods that were developed in the prison environment, and the figures obtained at the business summit are similar to what is found in the prison environment. That means in the prison environment, indeed, 1 in 5 people, there you go, is present. That triad, it means that when you're in prison, you can't trust anyone. People will lie to you, people will betray you, people will stab you in the back. Remember, everyone is in prison. Even the nicest, friendliest guy who seems normal is there for a reason. Everyone is there for a reason. Even if they're not going to tell you, you don't necessarily have access to their criminal record. You don't have the photos. You don't have the victims' testimonies. You don't have all that. You don't have the experts' opinions. Just know it exists and has a purpose. Now, I'll tell you something. When you enter a company and you walk into a room where those leaders are gathered, look at them and tell yourself one thing. They're all there for a reason. Each one is there. That's what psychopathology is. What brought them here?
These people,
On their way up, they crush people like you without a second thought. They sent people to therapy. They sent people on sick leave, language, duration. They destroyed lives. They destroyed people. You see what I mean? It's a very serious matter.
and so the companies that report back, those people, they applaud. Of course, they end up suffering, but before they suffer.
Unfortunately, it's the workers who will pay with their health. When you see on LinkedIn elsewhere, and it shocks me, I often see CEOs saying, well, I'm leaving. I'm listening to the company today, and then I'm going to move on to other adventures. Typically nothing else. You look at his record, look at the comments on LinkedIn. So even if we agree that LinkedIn is a very peculiar environment, honestly, what's happening on that site is very special. But let me tell you something. What I visualize is often under. People who join a company, they'll stay for 18 months, 24 months, then they'll leave. Under, the clients have left. Under, half the people resign. Under, a lot of people have been fired, kicked out, or let go. Under. Others are afraid for their jobs. They don't know if next week they'll still have a paycheck. Isn't it? Under. And actually, the day they leave with a huge bonus. With congratulations. Everyone tells them, you are amazing. And then you'll see people singing their praises on LinkedIn. The following week, they start with a different colored tie at another company. And actually, what encourages this kind of thing is the fact that these people don't pay for their mistakes. Because everyone pays for their mistakes. If tomorrow I was hired as a bulldozer driver, I get in the bulldozer, I mess up the gears, I let go of the clutch. It goes in the wrong direction. I crush 2 cars. I hit a wall. It falls. It destroys equipment. All that. I create terror, right? What do I expect? I expect to be fired. I'll be punished. I'll be fired. I could potentially be sued. No one will want to hire me. Tell him. That's the story he made. But actually, once you reach the level of these people, there are no relationships. There are no consequences for his actions. So you can do anything. You can sabotage everything. And then leave to applause. That's what's terrible. The applause, the champagne, the little party, the bonus, the golden parachute. Then that's it. Then you go somewhere else and wreck the next company until retirement without any problem. There you go, my friends. So I'll remind you once again that he uses it in the comments and in the video description below. Also read F-crology. It allows you to sleep knowing what's going on behind the scenes. Because you're being scammed. You're being ripped off. The collapse of your standard of living isn't just by chance. It's a plan. A good part of the money goes into scamming, doesn't it? That says it all, I'm telling you. That's it, friends. See you in another video. And if your chief executive officer is a psychopath, contact us. See you very soon. I'm telling you. There you go, my friends. See you in another video. And if your chief executive officer is a psychopath, contact us soon. Goodbye.